There's a number where money stops being a slog and quietly starts doing the heavy lifting for you, and almost nobody tells you where it is. You grind for years, putting away the same amount every payday, and it feels like pushing a boulder up a hill that never ends. And here's the kicker, mate. That feeling is real, and it's not your fault. The first chunk genuinely is the hardest, because the maths hasn't woken up yet. Picture two blokes. Same job, same payslip, started saving the exact same week. 10 years on, one of them has crossed a line where his money out-earns his own effort and the other one's still shoving coins up the hill by hand. From the outside, you cannot tell which is which. But the math can, so let's do the real maths on that tipping point, the moment the snowball starts rolling on its own. I'm not a financial advisor, just a bloke who got sick of feeling behind and finally watched this click for him. Quick, honest note before we go any further, this is general information, not financial advice. It doesn't take your own situation into account, so for that, have a chat with someone licensed who knows your numbers. And every figure I throw at you comes from real sources, the ABS, the RBA, Money Smart, all popped in the description below, right? Stick around, because by the end, you'll see exactly why your first 100 grand is the hard yards and precisely what changes the moment you're past it. G'day, I'm Davo. Let me tell you about two fellas. We'll call them Macca and Dazza. Both about 28, both on the same wage, let's say around 98 grand a year, which is roughly the average full-time Aussie salary as of late, 2026, per the ABS. Give or take. Macca and Dazza both decide, same month, to get serious. Both start tipping $1,000 a month into a plain, boring, broad investment, nothing fancy, no crypto, no hot tip his cousin heard at the pub. Just the responsible adult vegetables of money. And after a full year of saying no to the trip to Bali, driving the ute with the mystery rattle, skipping the second round at the footy, you know what Macca's account shows? About 12.5 grand. Now hang on, he put in 12 of that himself. So the famous, magical, life-changing power of compounding earned him about $500. 500. That's a tank of diesel and a big shop at Kohl's. A whole year of sacrifice, and the market's contribution to his future was basically a decent pair of boots. And this is the exact moment most people throw it in, because nobody warns you about this part. Every one of those compounding charts, you've seen the beautiful curve bending up toward the sky like a wave about to break. They never show you that you have to live inside the flat bit first. For years. In that first year, nearly all of Macca's growth came straight out of his own payslip. He wasn't building wealth, he was just moving money from one pocket into a pocket that's harder to reach. And his brain, like every human brain, looked at that and went, this is a scam. Because we're wired to think in straight lines, all right? We see $500 of growth in year one, and we assume year 30 looks like 500 times 30. It does not. Not even close. But your brain doesn't know that, which is exactly why so many good people quit right before the thing starts working. And I'll be honest with you about what those early years actually feel like, because the charts never show this part either. It feels like watching your mate post photos from Thailand while you transfer another grand into a number on a screen you can't touch. It feels like checking your account after a cracking month for the market and realizing the gain wouldn't cover your rego. Year 2, Macca's got about 25 grand. Year 3, around 40. Year 4, 55. The progress is real, but it's almost all just his own deposits staring back at him. He's basically paying himself a second rent. Slow, ugly, boring. Now, meet Dazza. Same age, same wage, started the same month. In year 3, Dazza looks at his 40 grand, does the sums on how long this is going to take, and decides the whole thing's a mugs game. So he cashes the lot out, puts a deposit on a brand new SUV, blows the rest on a kitchen reno in a place he's renting. And here's the brutal bit, mate. In the moment, Dazza looks smarter. He's got the nicer car. He's got the stone bench top. Macca's got a spreadsheet. For about a decade, every scoreboard you can actually see says Dazza's winning. The trouble is, the scoreboard that matters is invisible, and it doesn't update in real time. That 40 grand Dazza pulled out left alone at a long-run average return. It was on track to quietly become hundreds of thousands by the time he's 65. He didn't buy an SUV. He bought the most expensive kitchen on the street. He just won't get the bill for 30-odd years. Now, there's a reason one of the most famous money blokes who ever lived gave the advice he gave. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's late business partner, possibly the most quotable grumpy old fella in the history of finance, got asked at a shareholders meeting back in the 90s how an ordinary person builds wealth, and his answer became legendary. He said, "And I'm cleaning it up a touch for YouTube, the first 100,000 is a real swine, but you've got to do it. I don't care what you have to do, find a way to get your hands on the first 100 grand. After that," he reckoned, "you can ease off the gas a little." Now this is a billionaire telling people to clip coupons, which is a bit like a shark giving you swimming lessons, I'll grant you. But Munger wasn't being dramatic. He was describing a real mathematical line in the sand, he just never bothered explaining the maths underneath it. So that's what we're doing today, because once you see it, you genuinely can't unsee it. Here's the engine room, and I really want you to get this one, because it explains everything else. At any moment, your money is growing from two engines. Engine 1 is you, your payslip, your discipline, the bit you physically shove into the account every month. Engine 2 is the market, the return your existing pile earns on its own while you're asleep. In the beginning, Engine 1 does basically everything. But Engine 2 has a sneaky property. It gets stronger every single year, automatically, without you lifting a finger, because it's a percentage of an ever-growing pile. And there's a specific calculable moment where Engine 2 overtakes Engine 1. The moment the market starts adding more to your wealth each year than you do, want to know roughly where that crossover sits? Take what you put in across a year and divide it by your return. 1,000 a month is 12 grand a year, divide that by 7%, and you land somewhere around 170 grand. That's the line. Below it, you are the engine. Above it, you're the passenger. And the first 100 grand isn't some round number that just sounds nice in a title. It's the on-ramp to that exact zone where your money's wage starts beating your own. Now let me show you what this does to the timeline, because here's where the math stops being interesting and starts being genuinely unfair in your favor, for once. Let's stick with Macca, 1,000 a month, and I'm going to use 7% a year purely as an illustration. That's the long-run cruise speed of broad share markets, not a promise. His first 100 grand takes him a bit under 9 years. 9 years of grinding for the privilege of a six-figure account. But the second 100 grand, about 5. The third, a bit over 3.5. The fourth, under 3. And here's the one that breaks people's brains. The jump from 900 grand to a full million takes him under a year and a half. Same fella, same $1,000 a month, same boring fund. The first 100 grand took him the better part of a decade. The last one took about 15 months. He didn't get smarter. He didn't get a pay rise. The maths just took over, rolling about 5 times faster for the exact same monthly habit. That snowball that wouldn't budge for years, once it crested the hill, you couldn't stop it if you tried. But here's where it gets even better. And honestly, this is my favorite bit of the whole video. Everything I just showed you assumes you keep tipping money in. Now watch what happens if you grind your way to 100 grand and then stop completely. Never put in another cent. You spend the rest of your days buying whatever overpriced flat white you fancy. At 7%, left alone, that single untouched 100 grand roughly doubles every 10 years or so. That's a rule of thumb called the rule of 72. Divide 72 by your return and you get your doubling time. So 100 becomes 200, becomes 400, becomes 800 grand and beyond over a few decades from 100 grand and doing absolutely nothing. It's not magic, mate. It's just doubling, stacked on doubling, stacked on doubling, which also means the cost of dragging your feet is absolutely savage. Hit that 100 grand at 25 instead of 35, and over a working life, the difference at the other end isn't small, it's life-changing, and nobody worked a single hour harder for it. The calendar did it. Time is the one ingredient in this recipe you cannot buy more of, borrow, or fake, which is why the smartest money move most people will ever make is just starting earlier than feels comfortable. If you want the whole thing laid out, the maths, the milestones, the order I do it in, I put it all in a little plain English guide and it's linked down below. No pressure, no hard sell. It'll be there whenever you want it, right? Now, before you sprint off to a compound calculator and start picking out the retirement boat, we need an honest yarn, because there's a few things the finance blokes leave out when they post that lovely hockey stick chart, and I refuse to be one of them. First, the uncomfortable reality of who actually gets here. The honest truth is plenty of Aussie households are nowhere near this line, and not because they're lazy or daft. Money's been genuinely tight. The ABS has reported that a meaningful share of Australian households couldn't readily cover an unexpected expense of around $500 out of their own pocket. Verify exact ABS, NAB, Money Smart, figure plus year. Sit with that for a second. If you can't find a spare $500 for a busted hot water system, you're not going to feel the warm glow of compounding your surviving the week. And that's not a character flaw. That's a wage that hasn't kept pace with rent and groceries, which CoreLogic and the ABS have been flagging for years now. So if you're behind, you are not failing. You're playing the game with the difficulty cranked right up. The math still works the same for you, it just asks more of you up front, which funnily enough is exactly why knowing this stuff matters more, not less. And here's the slogan I'll leave you with, because it's the whole channel in one line. If the maths feels impossible, it's probably not you. Second honest bit, that's 7%. It's a real long-run average, but it's also a bit of a fib about any single year. Markets don't politely hand you the same return every year. Some years they're up 20-odd%, some years they're down a third, and the average is just what's left after the good and the ugly cancel out. About 1 year in 4 has historically been a down year. There have been whole stretches where the market went basically nowhere for ages. So when I say 7%, hear me clearly, that's the long-run cruise speed, not a promise for your next 5 years. You will live through years where your account drops and that crossover point feels like it's running away from you. That's not the maths breaking, that's the toll booth on the road. And the people who win aren't the clever ones, they're just the ones who don't get out of the car. And third, and I had this one backwards for years, so let me save you the trouble. I used to reckon that chasing a better return was the main game early on. Squeeze out an extra percent, pick the cleverer fund. Honestly, before that first $100,000, your return barely matters. I know, sounds mad, but run it. If you've got $20,000 invested and you spend 40 hours of your life researching to squeeze out 1 extra percent, congratulations, you made yourself $200. If you'd spent that same energy finding an extra $200 a month to put in, that's $2,500 a year, more than 10 times the impact. Below the line, your savings rate is the whole game. Your fund picking is a rounding error. I genuinely had that the wrong way around and it cost me years. Now here's a plot twist nobody talks about. Some people get to $100,000 and then stall completely. They camp at the bottom of the mountain right as the climb gets easy. And it's almost never a market problem, it's a lifestyle problem. Hitting 6 figures feels like permission. Permission to lease the flash European car. Permission to stop tipping money in for a while, because hey, you made it. And every one of those choices does the same thing. It pulls fuel out of engine 2 right as it's finally revving up. Munger had a rule for that one too, and it might be his most important. The first rule of compounding, he said, is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. Every dollar you yank out of a snowballing account in your 30s isn't a dollar over 30 years of growth. It's worth many times that to the 65-year-old version of you. That $10,000 upgrade isn't $10,000, it's a small fortune in future. Use money wearing a clever disguise. I'm not saying never enjoy your money, all right? I'm saying just know the real price tag before you tap the card. So what actually gets you over the line faster? Here's where I save you from the biggest trap in money content. Below $100,000, it's not about being clever, it's about being stubborn. Automate the transfer the day your pay lands, before your brain gets a vote. Keep your costs low and your hands off it. And then this is the hard part. Ignore the thing. Check it every few months. Not every morning. The flat years are not a malfunction, they're the entry fee. Most people refuse to pay it, which is the exact reason so few ever collect the prize. Let me land this plane with one last bit of maths, because it's my favorite fact in all of finance. Warren Buffett's worth well over $100 billion. Want to guess how much of that he had at age 65? About 3%. 97% of one of the biggest fortunes in human history showed up after the age most people retire. And Buffett isn't even the best stock picker alive? Not by a mile. Plenty of fund managers have beaten his annual return. His actual superpower? He started at age 10 and never stopped. He found his snowball early, found a really long hill, and just let it roll. As he put it himself, life is like a snowball. All you need is wet snow and a really long hill. You don't need his talent, mate. You need his hill. And the hill is just time. So here's the whole video in 3 sentences. The first 100 grand is slow, ugly, and almost entirely powered by your own sweat, which is precisely why most people never finish it. But hidden inside that grind is a crossover point where the market quietly takes over the heavy lifting, and every 100 grand arrives faster than the last. The math was never broken during the slow years it was loading. Remember Macca and Dazza, same wage, same start, same boring fund. The only real difference was which one stayed in the car long enough for the snowball to crest the hill. 10 years from now, that money is either quietly working for you while you sleep, or you're working around the lack of it. And I know which version I'd rather be living. One boring sentence, and it's the only one in here. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is general information, not financial advice. Those numbers are illustrations with real sources behind them, not predictions or guarantees. Take what's useful and leave the rest. Now do me a favor and drop a comment telling me where you reckon you sit right now, still pushing the boulder, or have you felt the snowball start to roll? I genuinely read them. And next time I'll show you exactly what I do with your first 10 grand to get the ball rolling. Until then, look after your money and it'll look after you. I'm Davo, catch you next one.